The rain pounded relentlessly against the windows, a constant drumbeat that filled the empty house with a chilling sense of isolation. Sarah sat alone on her couch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the flickering flames in the fireplace. She had always loved the rain, finding comfort in its steady rhythm, but tonight felt different. Tonight, the rain seemed to carry a sinister whisper, a dark promise hidden within each drop. As the clock ticked past midnight, Sarah felt a shiver run down her spine. She couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. The house was silent except for the rain and the occasional crackle of the fire, but the silence felt heavy, oppressive. Suddenly, her phone buzzed on the coffee table, breaking the eerie stillness. Sarah jumped, her heart racing. She reached for the phone, her hand trembling slightly. The screen displayed a message from an unknown number. Do you like the rain, Sarah? Her blood ran cold. She hadn't told anyone she was alone tonight, and she certainly hadn't shared her love for the rain with anyone recently. She glanced around the room, half expecting to see someone lurking in the shadows, but there was no one. Trying to steady her nerves, she replied, "Who is this?" A moment later, another message appeared, "A friend. Are you scared?" Sarah's fingers hovered over the keyboard. She wanted to call the police, but she didn't want to overreact if it was just a prank. Instead, she decided to block the number and put her phone down. She took a deep breath, trying to shake off the unease that had settled over her. The rain showed no signs of letting up. It hammered against the roof, a relentless cacophony that seemed to grow louder with each passing minute. Sarah tried to distract herself by watching a movie, but she couldn't focus. Her mind kept drifting back to the strange message. Just as she was starting to relax, there was a loud knock at the door. Sarah's heart skipped a beat. Who would be visiting at this hour, in this weather? She hesitated, then slowly made her way to the front door. Peeking through the peephole, she saw a figure standing on her porch, drenched from head to toe. "Hey, who is it?" she called out, her voice shaky. Please, I need help," a man's voice responded. "My car broke down, and my phone is dead. Can I come in and use yours?" Sarah's instinct screamed at her to say no, but the rain was pouring down in sheets, and the man looked genuinely desperate. She opened the door just a crack, keeping the chain locked. Let me see your phone," as she said. The man handed her a soaking wet phone, and Sarah could see that it was indeed dead. She bit her lip, torn between her fear and her desire to help. "Okay," as she said finally. "You can come in, but just for a minute." She closed the door, undid the chain, and opened it fully. The man stepped inside, water dripping from his clothes onto the hardwood floor. He looked to be in his early 30s, with dark hair plastered to his forehead and a weary expression on his face. Thank you," he said, offering a small, grateful smile. "I'm sorry to bother you so late." Sarah nodded, trying to hide her nervousness. "It's okay. The phone is in the kitchen." She led him to the kitchen, where he immediately plugged in his phone and began to dial a number. Sarah watched him carefully, still feeling uneasy. As he spoke to someone on the other end, her eyes were drawn to the window. For a split second, she thought she saw a shadowy figure standing just beyond the glass, watching them. The man finished his call and turned to Sarah. Thank you so much. My friend is on his way to pick me up. He should be here in about 20 minutes. Sarah forced a smile. That's good. Do you want some tea or something while you wait?" He nodded. That would be great, thank you." As Sarah busied herself making tea, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. She glanced at the window again, but the shadow was gone. Maybe it had just been her imagination. By the way," the man said, "I'm Michael." "Sarah," as she replied, handing him a cup of steaming tea. "So, what happened to your car?" Engine trouble," Michael said, taking a sip. "It just died on me out of nowhere." They made small talk for a few minutes, but Sarah's mind kept drifting back to the strange message. She decided to bring it up, hoping Michael might offer some reassurance. Hey, this might sound weird, but I got a creepy text earlier. From an unknown number. Michael raised an eyebrow. Really? What did it say? Sarah told him about the message and how it mentioned her love for the rain. Michael's expression grew serious. That is strange, he said. Do you think it was someone you know? I don't think so, as Sarah said, shaking her head. I haven't talked to anyone about that recently. Michael frowned. And maybe it's just a prank. Kids these days, you know? Sarah nodded, but she wasn't convinced. There was something about the message that felt too personal, too deliberate. Just then, Sarah's phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen and felt her blood turn to ice. Another message from the same unknown number. I'm closer than you think, Sarah. Her hands trembled as she showed the message to Michael. He looked concerned. Maybe you should call the police, he suggested. Sarah nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She picked up the phone and dialed 911, explaining the situation to the dispatcher. They assured her that an officer would be there soon. Michael stood up. Yeah, I'll wait with you until the police arrive. It's not safe for you to be alone right now. Sarah was grateful for his presence, but she couldn't shake the feeling of dread that had settled over her. The rain continued to pour outside, a relentless torrent that seemed to echo the growing fear in her heart. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out, plunging the house into darkness. Sarah let out a small gasp, and Michael quickly moved to her side. It's okay, he said, his voice calm. It's probably just the storm. But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that it was something more. She grabbed a flashlight from a drawer and turned it on, the beam cutting through the darkness. Let's go check the fuse box, Michael suggested. They made their way to the basement, the narrow beam of the flashlight illuminating the way. The rain pounded on the roof above, the sound even louder in the confined space. As they reached the bottom of the stairs, Sarah's phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen and felt a wave of terror wash over her. I see you, Sarah. Her hands shook so badly, she nearly dropped the phone. Michael saw the message and swore under his breath. Whoever this is, they're playing a sick game, he said. We need to get out of here. But before they could move, there was a loud crash from upstairs. Sarah's heart raced as she looked at Michael, her eyes wide with fear. Stay behind me, he said, grabbing a wrench from a nearby shelf. They slowly made their way back up the stairs, the flashlight beam dancing wildly with each step. As they reached the top, they saw the front door standing wide open, rain pouring in. A figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted by the storm. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she recognized the figure. It was the same shadowy shape she had seen outside the kitchen window. The figure stepped forward, revealing a face twisted with malice. Who are you? Michael demanded, raising the wrench. The figure didn't answer. Instead, it lunged at them with a speed that took them both by surprise. Michael swung the wrench, but the figure was too quick, dodging the blow and knocking him to the ground. Sarah screamed, backing away as the intruder advanced on her. She fumbled for her phone, trying to call for help, but her hands were shaking too badly. The figure reached out, grabbing her arm with a grip like iron. Let go of me, she cried, struggling to break free. The intruder's face twisted into a sinister smile. You can't escape, Sarah. I know everything about you. Sarah's mind raced. How did this person know her? Why were they targeting her? She had no answers, only fear and desperation. Just as the intruder tightened their grip, there was a blinding flash of light. The house shook as a bolt of lightning struck nearby, and the intruder let out a scream, releasing Sarah and stumbling back. Michael was on his feet in an instant, swinging the wrench with all his might. The intruder fell to the ground, unconscious. Sarah and Michael stood panting, staring at the still figure. The storm raged outside, but inside the house, there was an eerie silence. We need to tie them up, Michael said finally. Before they wake up. Sarah nodded, still in shock. They found some rope and bound the intruder securely, making sure they couldn't escape. As they worked, the police arrived, their flashing lights cutting through the darkness. The officers took the intruder into custody and began to question Sarah and Michael. As they recounted the night's events, Sarah's mind kept returning to the messages. How had the intruder known so much about her? The answer came later, when the police searched the intruder's belongings. They found a notebook filled with detailed notes about Sarah's life, her routines, and her habits. The intruder had been stalking her for weeks, learning everything they could. It was a chilling revelation. Sarah realized that the sense of being watched, the strange messages, it had all been part of a calculated plan to terrorize her. In the days that followed, Sarah struggled to come to terms with what had happened. The intruder was identified as a disturbed individual with a history of stalking, but the knowledge did little to ease her fear. Michael checked in on her regularly, offering support and reassurance. They had bonded over the shared trauma, and his presence was a comfort. As the rain finally cleared and the sun returned, Sarah made a decision. She wouldn't let fear control her life. She installed security cameras around her home and took self-defense classes, determined to reclaim her sense of safety. The experience had changed her, but it hadn't broken her. She knew she would always carry the scars, but she also knew she had the strength to face whatever came next. Months passed, and life slowly returned to normal. Sarah continued to be vigilant, but she also found joy in the little things again. She reconnected with friends and family, finding comfort in their support. One evening, as she sat by the fire with Michael, she reflected on how far she had come. The stormy night that had once filled her with dread was now a distant memory, a testament to her resilience. Thank you, as she said softly, looking at Michael. For everything. He smiled, taking her hand. You don't have to thank me, Sarah. You faced your fears and came out stronger. I'm just glad I could help. As they sat together, the rain began to fall outside, a gentle, soothing patter against the windows. This time, Sarah didn't feel fear. She felt a sense of peace, knowing that she had faced the darkness and found the light. And so, on that rainy night, Sarah realized that true strength wasn't about never being afraid. It was about facing your fears, even when they seemed insurmountable, and finding the courage to keep going. The end.